Into the training part of our call. This is actually, if you're watching this as a repeat, this is part 4 of final expense best practices. So there was a part 1, part 2, part 3. This is going to be part 4. What I would recommend is that go back and watch some of those other segments as well. There's been some great information. And I think after today, we'll wrap it up for a little bit until we come up with some more topics, and we'll probably add on to what we're doing. But with that, let's go ahead and continue. And what we're going to be talking about is the phone script. For the first 3 segments, I think we kind of touched on the phone, but we never really dove into the phone script. We covered a lot of topics, but not specifically the phone. The one big thing, Jimmy, I want to talk about, and Michael, the one thing I want to talk about is before we get into the phone script and how to handle objections and all that, is that working the phones should not be your primary way of contacting final expense clients. In other words, if you think you're going to get into final expense and you're going to work from home and you're only going to make phone calls, it's not going to work, guys. First of all, if most of you are primarily working direct mail leads, okay? Here's what I'll tell you about direct mail leads. In my opinion, it's the best lead out there. It's my go-to lead all the time. But I'm going to give you a guesstimate, is that I would say probably 15% of my leads don't have phone numbers on them. Jimmy, do you keep track of that at all, about direct mail leads without numbers?
I don't track it, but I would say that's a good guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've tracked it before, guys. It's been a while since I've done it. But I would say, 15% of the leads that you get are they're not going to have phone numbers. Sometimes you may get a batch where 20%. Sometimes I've had batches where I had 100% phone numbers. But overall, about 15% of your leads are not going to have phone numbers. You can try looking them up. But if you're going to rely 100% on the phone, keep in mind you're already taking away 15% of your clients. And I can promise you, prospecting over the phone, even though I advocate it's a great tool, in my opinion, it's tougher to book an appointment over the phone than it is face-to-face. Because when I'm out door knocking and I have the lead in my hand and, I'm looking professional, I've got my ID badge on, very rarely do I ever get a door slammed in my face. Very rarely. But it's very common for someone to hang up on me on a phone script because they just think you're a telemarketer. And it's just kind of funny. Just this week, I've noticed how many unsolicited, is that what I want to say? Unsolicited phone calls seniors get. I was on an appointment this week with a really nice gentleman. I was there for about an hour, wrote him up a nice policy, and I swear he probably got 5 phone calls in that hour. And they were all some type of solicitation, okay? So don't take it personal. If you get a batch of leads and you're getting hung up on, don't take it personal. These seniors are getting absolutely bombarded with phone calls about all different kinds of crap. So we're going to teach you what our phone scripts and what they and how they work and how to do it. But again, guys, I promise you, the bottom line is that if you want to be effective in final expense, door knocking has got to be your primary way of prospecting. With that, what we're going to get into first. First, let me ask Jimmy or Michael, is there anything that you want to add on to this before we jump right into the scripts?
I think that's so important what you said, Joe. And we got to take into account probably maybe a decade ago or so, a lot of people did just set all their appointments solely by phone. But the way we as Americans communicate has radically changed with the advent of the cell phone. And that fact is from the poorest person to the richest person, we all now have something in common, and that's called caller ID. And line up 100 of your friends and ask them how many of them would pick up a phone number that they don't recognize. I guarantee you 99 of them would tell you they would not pick the phone up. Our clients are no different. Does that mean we don't do any setting of appointments by phone? No. I mean, you can call on Sunday night and set some, but as Joe and Jimmy are going to tell you, 50 to 60% of your appointments or sales are going to come from door knocking, which means if you do not advocate to become proficient at door knocking, you're just not going to make it in final expense. And as we bring people on board, we let them know that, hey, are you okay with door knocking? Because that is really crucial to being successful in this industry.
Absolutely. Jimmy, how about you?
He hit it right on the head, so I'm ready to move forward.
All right, let's do this, man. All right, Jimmy, well, you're up, buddy. I got your script up here. That I really love this script. This is the direct mail script that we're recommending that you use, or something very, very close to it. Guys, the one thing I recommend is use what we're teaching you. Don't make up your own script. The one thing that you will find about phone scripts typically is the shorter the better. The more direct and more to the point, the better it's going to be. Just like with door knocking. I mean, the agents that have the biggest problem with door knocking is that they try to come up with some super elaborate door knock script, and they end up having a 15-minute conversation at the door, and they never even get in the house. The same thing with the phone script. It has to be very, very assumptive. Just assume that they're going to remember sending in the form. Now, Jimmy, do you want to just read through this, or do you just want to go ahead and role play it?
Let me first kind of preface this.
Okay.
What I like to say is that when you're making phone calls, you have to understand that your objective is to set the appointment, not to make a sell over the phone, not to qualify them over the phone, and not to explain the program to them over the phone. That is not your objective. Your objective is only one thing: set the appointment. Okay. So normally, from the time somebody answers the phone to the time I'm done booking the appointment, you're talking 2 to 3 minutes. If your conversation is more than 2 to 3 minutes, you're doing something wrong. You're talking too much. You're trying to explain. You're just going down the wrong trail. So just kind of keep that in mind. It should be a 2 to 3 minute conversation, and you should be done. Okay. The other thing I want to say is that if you get rejected over the phone, don't feel like you burned that lead, because they're not going to remember you. You're just going to be one of the other, dozens of quote unquote telemarketers that contacted them by the phone. So you can always go back and knock on their door. So that's the thing that I like about doing the phone calls, is that I can try to set up some appointments and get what I call the low-hanging fruit, to get the easy ones out of the way. And anybody that rejected me over the phone, I'm going to door knock them anyway. So just kind of keep that in mind. So with that, let me just go ahead into well, I just had an airplane fly over. It's pretty loud. Let me read you my script. So it says, hi, Joe. My name is Jimmy with Senior Solutions. We received the card you mailed in regarding the state-regulated life insurance program for Texas citizens. I now say 50 and older. I'm the agent that has been assigned to your area, and I'll be in your neighborhood tomorrow. And then I'll say, now, Joe, to grab their attention, you've already been pre-approved. I'm here to help you with the enrollment process. Now, does 9:00 a.m. work for you, or do you prefer something later in the day? And that's it. That's my script. I want to break down a couple of things real quick. The first one is the greeting. Do not greet them by their last name. Don't be formal. That right there is an indication that you're a telemarketer. They're going to hang up on you before you get to say anything else. It is okay to ask for Joe, like saying, "Hi, is Joe available?" Or you can just ask in a question, "Hi, Joe," like you're asking if it's Joe. Okay. Um, a lot of people will say, "Why? Who's calling?" You know, I found that just recently I started changing it up a little bit. I'll just say, "Hi, may I speak with Joe?" And when I say it like that, because it's polite and courteous and stuff, they usually will say, "This is Joe," instead of saying being confrontational. So I'm not bringing a wall up. And then I keep it on a first name basis. My name is Jimmy with Senior Solutions. We received the card that you mailed in regarding the state regulated life insurance program for Texas citizens 50 and older. And then I'll just say, I'm the agent that's been assigned to your area. I'll be in your neighborhood tomorrow. Now, Joe, you've already been pre-approved, and I'm here to help you with the enrollment process. So does 9 o'clock work for you, or do you prefer something later in the day? The reason why I do it like that is because I'm trying to fill my schedule. So if he takes the 9 o'clock, then my next one is going to be 10:30. Now, does 10:30 work for you, or do you need something later in the day? And I'll just fill my schedule. I space them an hour and a half apart. So that's the ideal situation. Now, once you're done with that and you get the appointment, now you want to book, button it up a little bit. So I usually ask them, now, Joe, where uh, are the numbers on your house? I mean, are the numbers to your house? Are they located on your home? Are they on the curb, the mailbox? Where can I find that? So I get that. And I ask them what color their home is. Sometimes I'll ask them what color their car is. And I just want them to start engaging with me and start answering some questions so that they can know that I'm coming. It helps them remember the appointment. If they want to give me directions on how to get there, just attentively listen. Let them tell you everything, even though you're going to probably put it on GPS. The more that they get engaged, involved, the more likely that they're going to be there. Okay. Another little trick that I've learned lately is that you can ask them, now, Joe, do you have any particular, like, let's say it's in the morning, do you like sweets? Do you like sweet bread? Can I get you a donut or something? And so I'm gonna bring them a little treat. I get them expecting a treat, or maybe a soda in the afternoon. Okay, so that's just another little way of buttoning it down. So Joe, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I like that. I like the soda or the the sweet bread, man. That's a great idea. Guys, I love this script. It's straight and to the point. Again, my recommendation is don't try to get fancy with this, man. Just do it exactly the way Jimmy has it written. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some more techniques and how to button it up and that sort of thing. But this is a great script, and you really should not get that many objections, especially when you're calling direct mail A leads. And you could really use this script for any type of lead. You could, use it for Facebook leads. You could use it for telemarketing leads. You just have to kind of change up the wording a little bit. I do have I've got a Facebook script up. I'm going to put up now. And again, very similar, but again, you could use this script for telemarketing as well. So kind of how this goes, it's very similar. I'm going to say, hello, Jimmy. That's how I like to do it. Like if my lead, if it's a male or a lady, and it's a female voice or a male voice, I'm just going to assume that that's the person that sent the lead in. So if I'm calling up Jimmy, it's going to go something like this. Hello, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, this is Bill with Senior Benefits for Lake County. The reason why I'm calling, you recently responded to our post on Facebook requesting information about the new state-regulated final expense program for Texas citizens. And it's my job to get the information you requested. Is it okay for me to drop this off around 9 or 9:30, or do you need something a little bit later? So very, very similar. We're getting straight to the point very, very quickly. Okay. Jimmy says, well, 9 o'clock. Okay. Hey, Jimmy, I'm gonna put you down for 9 o'clock. Do me a favor, just give me a little bit of uh, time, maybe 10, 10, 15 minutes either side of 9 o'clock because of traffic. And Jimmy, real quick, let me just verify some information that you'd already given us. I'm gonna verify his date of birth, verify the address, make sure that's correct. Um, and your husband's date of birth, verify whether or not they're looking for information just for themselves. A lot of times the lead on Facebook leads, it'll have the spouse. Sometimes it won't. So I will clarify. Now, Jimmy, is this information just for you? Um, or are you married? Or do you have a significant other? I'm going to find out and then I'm going to get the information on the spouse. But guys, you notice how precise and how short this the script is. That's how you want to do it. Now, as far as confirming the appointment, this is some information on how to confirm. I'll say this: once I book the appointment, I verified the information. I'm going to say, Jimmy, could you do me a favor? Could you grab a pen and paper so you can write some important information down? I'm going to wait for them to grab the paper. Let me know when you're ready, okay? Okay, Jimmy, I have you scheduled we're assuming that I called on, let's say, a Sunday evening. Jimmy, I have you scheduled for 9:30 a.m. Please go ahead and write my name down so you know who's coming to your house. My name's Joe Johnson. And then also, so I don't take up too much of your time, Jimmy, could you do me a favor and just have all your prescriptions out so I can get the correct spelling and doses of your medication? Okay? And then I'm going to say one last thing before I let you go. Where's the best place for me to park? Is there street parking where you live, or can I park in the driveway? Oh, yeah, you can park in the driveway. Okay, great. Oh, and then also, where are your house numbers located? Are they on the house, the mailbox, the curb, over the garage? People put them in all different places. So find out where the house numbers are. Okay, great. Confirm the time again and have a great rest of your day. Like what Jimmy was saying, sometimes clients will want to give you very detailed information and they'll ask, well, where are you coming from? Well, I'm coming from here. And they'll start giving you turn-by-turn directions on how to get to their house. Don't ever cut them off. Let them guide you the entire way. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take notes, because sometimes sometimes you go to plug that in your GPS and it won't show up, so you don't want, after the client took the time to give you directions, you don't want to be calling them saying, man, I can't find your house. It's not on my GPS. They're like, well, I gave you directions, But as far as confirming appointments, Jimmy or Michael, is there anything that you want to cover on the script or confirming appointments before we move on to a few other topics?
I think, Joe, one thing, and that we brought up many times, do you guys have them go get a pen or pad to write down the important information, or do you have them use their phone? Is that part? I've heard that many times when people are confirming the phone knocking scripts. Jimmy and Joe, do you guys do that?
Yeah, I asked them to grab a pen and paper.
Yes. So that's very important. And that also verifies that they were listening as well, and it shows that you're engaged with them as well.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to have your clients. Don't be so. You want the phone call to be precise, but don't be so quick to get off the phone that you're not getting the client to write down the information. Very, very important. Jimmy, anything else you want to add before we move on?
Well, you asked a question about confirming the appointment. Are you're just talking about this confirmation? You're not talking about again later, right?
No, this is all part of the script. This is what we do at the end of the script.
Right. So what I want to tell people is that do not call the people the day of the appointment to ask them if they're going to be there. Okay. because they're probably going to come up with an excuse and they're going to change their mind, or they're going to ask you more questions. They're unsure. It happens so fast. What is he coming out here for? And you're going to have a lot of people, what do you call it, cancel on you if you call that day of, especially if you said it more than 2 days. So just don't call, just show up, okay? If they're really far, then I would say send them a reminder text. Just text them that, that you're going to, just don't ask the question, just a reminder of the appointment. And so the best thing to do on a reminder appointment text is to do it the day before, not the day of. Okay. A lot of times people will appreciate that, and it'll help you keep your appointments. And that's it, really.
Perfect. Guys, a couple of things before we move on, and what we're going to cover next is phone objections. But I've got just some best practices tips before we move on. One is a technique that I've been using for over 10 years when I make phone calls, and that is I call multiple times during the same dialing session. So let me explain what I mean. If I'm calling either a Facebook or direct mail lead, I'll push in the numbers on my phone. I'll call. I'll let it ring 2 or 3 times. I'll hang up and I'll call again. I'll do that 3 or 4 times. Okay, and the reason why is because I'm getting into their psychic a little bit, their psyche, and kind of using some psychology, because I know for a fact that a lot of people don't answer their phone because they look at the caller ID and they're like, I don't know who this is. So what I'll do is I'll call. If they're looking at their number, they'll see it come up on their caller ID. They're thinking to themselves, I don't know who this is. Boom, I hang up. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they'll call back. I call back again 2 seconds later, like, oh. And then I hang up again. And then by the 3rd time, the clients are really wanting to know, like, who is this? Who is this that's calling me so many times? And they're like in a hurry. Now they want to pick it up really fast because they don't want to miss the call now, because they're thinking it's really important. And I promise you, I've never gotten yelled at. Okay? So try this little tip, this little technique. It really, really works. The other little tip that I can give you is call early. Don't be afraid to call at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay? Because telemarketers don't call at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay? Who calls at 8 o'clock in the morning? Doctors' offices, pharmacists, different things like that. So don't be afraid to call early. Some of my best appointment setting times is when I call early, like at 8 o'clock. I've had times where I've booked 4 or 5 appointments between 8 and 9 because everyone's answering their phone at 8 o'clock in the morning. So don't be afraid of calling too early. There's no such thing. Well, I won't say there's no such thing as too early, but 8 o'clock is not too early. You could probably even do 7:30 and get away with it, but I started at 8 o'clock. Also, as far as best times, here's the thing I'll tell you about when to call. Call all the time. There are some times that I have figured out that I think are the best times. I like Saturday mornings and Sunday late afternoons and Sunday evenings. So Saturday mornings, I'll get on the phone and call early. Now, keep in mind, Saturday, one thing I don't like doing is calling on Fridays to book appointments for Mondays. Over the weekend, they'll forget about it. You'll have 50% or higher no-show ratio if you're calling on Fridays to book appointments for Mondays. So that's a big no-no. The earliest you want to call for Monday morning appointments is Saturday. Now, Sunday is the best time, but Saturday would be the second best time. Call early Saturday morning. Start at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can probably book a whole bunch of appointments between 8 and 10 o'clock Saturday morning before they're out doing their thing. And then Sunday evening, late afternoon, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and you can call all the way up until 8, 9 o'clock on Sunday evenings. Are there any Jimmy, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanna first validate what you just said. Two things there. One, the multiple dialing works. You know, when Joe first told me about this a few years ago, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, you know. And then we were actually in Dallas for a training, and I don't know if you remember that, Joe, but we had gone out the night before, um, and we had a pretty rough night of drinking. So the next day,
Yes, Jimmy, I remember.
the next day, Saturday morning, Joe is doing a call session for the whole group at 8 o'clock. And I got to tell you, he wasn't feeling good. And he was showing us to do the multiple dialing technique at 8:01. And you know what? It was working. And he was booking appointments. And I remember one guy, he called like 4 times. And then the guy picked up. And Joe he just kept it smooth. He just used the same script and the guy booked the appointment. It was amazing. So that opened my eyes. So I mean it really does work. And then I tried it and it works. The
Yeah,
second
that
thing I
was.
wanted
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
go ahead. Well, the second thing I wanted to tell you is the 8 o'clock thing on Saturday morning. I'm like, I don't know about that, Joe. I don't want to be bothering people, right? And Joe's like, you just got to try it. So I always track my calls and all that stuff. But so now I'm going to track the times that I book the appointments, right? And I actually would, on average, book 5 appointments between 8 and 9 a.m., about 4 appointments between 9 and 10 a.m., and then after that, I might book 1 or 2 appointments per hour after that. So the sweet spot was the 8 and 9 o'clock spot, 8 being the best spot. That is the best time to call on a Saturday morning. And if you think about your own self, I mean, if you get up early to go to work every day, you know, your body is going to wake up at that time naturally anyway. And particularly with the seniors, they're up early drinking their coffee. They've already read the newspaper at 8 o'clock. You know, they're ready to do something and they're going to take that call. I mean, it really is an optimal time to call. And you want to be dialing at 8 o'clock. You don't want to be getting started, getting your stuff prepared, putting organizing. No, you want to be up early, 6 o'clock. Drink your cup of coffee, get settled in, get organized, and be ready to make your first dial at 8 o'clock. So, Joe, I'll turn it back over.
Awesome. Jimmy, I have a question for you. Do you ever leave voice messages?
No.
Okay. I don't either. I got to be honest with you guys. I've tried to come up with some really creative voice messages. I've never had anybody call me back ever. It just don't work. You're better off just calling, exhausting the lead, calling it as many times as you can, and of course you're going to have to go door knock it. But in my best opinion, don't even waste your time. Don't wait leaving a message. Don't even think about it. It doesn't work. The other little tip I want to give on booking appointments is my recommendation is when you're setting up your schedule, always go for if you can, go for the early appointment first. So, like Jimmy and I were talking about, with our phone scripts, we both said about 9 o'clock. Hey, does 9 o'clock work or do you need something a little bit later? Try to fill that last spot. And a little technique I'll tell you, a little trick on yourself is after you book your 9 o'clock, go ahead and book your last appointment. Okay. So if I'm setting up a power day where I'm already expecting myself to be out in the field from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to run till 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, whether it be preset appointments or door knocking, go ahead and force yourself to be out the whole day. So book your 9 o'clock as soon as possible, and then after that, try to book the latest appointment you can and whatever time you think you are going to be running. If it's 6 o'clock, so as an example, what I would do is if I'm calling Jimmy and I've already got my 9 o'clock filled, I would say, well, Jimmy, tomorrow we've got a pretty busy schedule. I do have an opening at 6 o'clock in the evening. Is that okay? And I'll try to get that 6 o'clock filled. Now I've got a 9 o'clock in the morning and I got a 6 o'clock in the evening. Now it's up to me. I'm going to fill up the rest of my day with either preset appointments or door knocking. That's how you keep yourself out in the field the whole day. Okay. Jimmy, I know you've done the same thing, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
sir.
works, dude. It works, man. It's sometimes you got to play little games with yourself and trick yourself to do it. Another real quick tip on booking appointments is I always like next days. So always try to book your appointment for the next day. The maximum 2 days out. 48 hours is the absolute maximum. If you book it out for 3 days, it's not even an appointment. You probably got a maybe a 10% chance, 20% chance that they will show. Sometimes you get lucky and they just happen to be home, but none of them. They'll all say, "Oh, I forgot you were coming over." You know. So, and then Jimmy, I'm assuming you probably experienced the same thing, booking 24 to 48 hours after.
Yeah, you really don't want to book anything more than 2 days out. They're not going to be
Yeah.
there.
Nope. Absolutely not. Um, Anything else, Michael, Jimmy? Any other little nuggets you want to add before we get into phone objections?
Joe, I think
I'll say
you and Jimmy both have hit the nail on the head.
All right.
thank you, Michael. I'll say this: if you do have a no-show, whatever time that appointment is, like let's say it's a 2 o'clock and they're not there, go back the very next day at 2 o'clock. They'll be there.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and move into. We've got about 15 minutes to cover phone objections. Jimmy, what are the? Let's cover like the top two, maybe
Can I tell you
top
the
two
common ones
objections.
that I get, Joe?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you there?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Can you not hear me? Let me see.
Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello?
Michael, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear Joe?
Okay. I can hear Joe. You faded on me for a second there, Joe.
Oh, okay. I think I had my hand over the microphone. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm just going to tell you the common ones that I get a lot is the first one, they'll say like, "Oh, you caught me at work, you caught me cooking, you caught me driving." Like they give you an excuse as to like why they can't talk to you. Can you call me back later? Okay. So here's the thing. When you call back later, they're not going to answer your call because they're thinking you're a telemarketer. That was just an excuse to get off the phone. Now, they might be driving, they might be cooking, and they might be at work, but remember, they took the call, right? So that means that they can talk, right? So if they give you that excuse, just say, "I'll be real quick," right? And then just get right back into it. And that's all you got to do. I'll be real quick.
Yeah,
And
I
then
always say, yeah, this will only take 30 seconds. And you just get right and just go for a quick appointment. Do your script, just maybe shorten a few things a little bit and get right back to the point. That's a really, really good point. It's a smoke screen. First of all, if they were busy, Jimmy, right, they wouldn't have answered the phone.
exactly.
So what a BS, I mean, that's a total BS objection right there. So guys, don't get fooled by that. When I was new in this business, man, that used to just, people would say, "Oh, yeah. Could you call me back in 5 minutes?" I'm still calling those people back. It's been 10 years. They're still not answering their phone.
Yeah.
So guys, don't get tripped up like that, okay? That's not a real objection. What's another good one you get, Jimmy?
Another one I get is, "I'm not interested." You got to understand, when they tell you that they're not interested, they think you're a telemarketer. Okay.
Yeah.
So the best way to handle that is to grab their attention right away, is just to say, time out just for a second. You know, like you're getting their attention. Time on, hold on, Joe. Listen, I think you're getting me confused with a telemarketer. No, see, my job, I'm responsible to get the information to you that you requested. That's all I tell them, right? I'm going to be in your area tomorrow. What would be the best time for me to stop by? I have a 10 o'clock or 10:30 available. Would that work for you? I just tell them like that. I just tell them straight up. I'm not a telemarketer. It's my job to provide you the information that you request.
Perfect. How about Jimmy? They say, well, I don't remember. What's this all about? How do you handle that one?
Okay. Now, typically, I'll just say this. If you're buying A leads, you typically don't get that. Okay. But you might get it every now and then. If you're calling on older leads, yeah, they're probably not going to remember, but most of them remember. But let's just say that you get that excuse, well then, or that objection, then I'll just simply say, Joe, you had filled out a card requesting information. Then I'll describe it. This was a pink colored card. It was a green colored card. It was talking about final expenses. Um, they usually will say, "Oh yeah, I remember that." If they don't, I'll say, "Now, Joe, on here it's filled out by hand, and it has your date of birth is, and I'll verify their date of birth, and I'll verify their spouse's name, and I'll verify their date of birth, and I verify, of course, their address. Is all that information correct?" Yes. Sometimes if there's a spouse and they still like legitimately sound like they're not sure, they don't remember, I might say, well, maybe it was your spouse that filled it out. You know, maybe, Mary filled it out for you. Could it be that she filled it out? Oh, it could have been. Oh, yeah. Well, she must really be concerned because this has to do with final expenses. This is a really good program. You've already been pre-approved. My job is to provide you the information and to help you with the enrollment process. And I'm going to be there tomorrow. Are you going to be available at 9 o'clock, or do you need something a little bit later in the day? See, I never go into detail about it. I'm not trying to sell them. I sell the appointment. So Joe, I'll give
Right.
that back.
Awesome. Good. Very, very good point. Another little technique that I like to do, not so much if they say they don't remember, but sometimes if they're like, well, what's this about again? And then what I'll do is I'll kind of change my tone a little bit, and I'll go into a kind of a softer tone, and I'll say, now, Jimmy, most of the people that respond to the card that we mail tell me that their main concern is they just want to make sure is that when they do pass away, they're not leaving their family with a financial burden. Was that your concern? And they'll usually, yeah, I think that's why I had mailed the card in. Occasionally, Jimmy, do you ever get anybody that says, I don't want anybody coming to my house?
Sometimes I do. And, when I get that, I'll ask them, well, can we meet at a nearby coffee shop or a McDonald's? And I've actually sold policies at McDonald's many times.
Yep.
Um, I occasionally, it's not very often, but like maybe, I don't know, one a year or so, I'll get somebody that says something to the effect that they just do not do well with people in person. Um, and they'd rather do it over the phone. And if that's the case, they'll do it right on the phone.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good tip, guys. There's an old saying that says, don't fight them, write them. And what that means is if a client's asking for something, don't try to put it off. Like yesterday, I had a client, I was doing my presentation. I was going through my pre-sale folder, and the client kept asking, well, how much is it going to cost me? How much is it going to cost me? I'm like, guys, that's a buying sign. I cut the presentation short. I said, let's get right down to it. I got my 3-option worksheet. I skipped everything, and I did my 3-option worksheet, and she pointed to the premium that was $104 a month. Okay, so sometimes you just need to kind of go with the flow. If a client's ready to do business, just as an example, if they're asking you, well, what's this going to cost me? Don't don't put them off. Answer their question. That means they want to buy. Same thing on the phone, man. If they're like, I don't want anybody coming to my house, can I just do this over the phone? Don't get into some big, well, no, this is why we have to meet you in person. Sell them over the phone, just like what Jimmy says. Remember, don't fight them, write them. Jimmy, what are some of any other objections that you get? Michael, any objections you can think of that we haven't covered
No,
yet?
but yeah, a very successful agent always said, Mike, especially in the very beginning, when you can't remember what objection to say back, always say the same one. And he told me it would work 90% of the time. Mrs. Smith, I can certainly understand that. I sure appreciate you sharing that with me. But Mrs. Smith, did I tell you my job today is just to deliver this information to you? Then what you do with this is totally up to you. Now, Mrs. Smith, do mornings or afternoons work better? And again, Jimmy and Joe, as we both know, we're trying to act like a UPS man or a FedEx driver. You can even do that over the phone. When the FedEx man or the UPS driver is delivering the package, they're kind of very nonchalant. Hey, I'm just here to deliver it. What you do with it after deliver it is strictly up to you. So he always taught me that if you said that 90% of the time, Mrs. Smith, I can certainly understand that. And I sure appreciate you sharing that with me. But Mrs. Smith, you need to realize something. My job today is just to deliver this to you. Then what you do with it, well, that's totally up to you. Would morning or afternoons work better? And if I sort of understand what you and Jimmy have said, you want to acknowledge the objection, you want to answer it, then, ladies and gentlemen, you want to proceed. You just want to get right back into your script again. Like, does morning work better? Afternoons work better? Back to you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, you're exactly right, man. Sometimes we complicate objections more than what we do, and sometimes we hear an objection, but it's really just a statement that needs clarification, not really an objection. Very rarely do we actually on hot leads. Very rarely do we actually ever hear, "Well, I'm not interested." Okay, it does happen, but how I would handle that if Jimmy says, "Well, I'm not interested." Jimmy, again, please don't hang up. I'm not a telemarketer. I understand you're not interested, but remember, my job is simply just to provide you the information you requested and show you how the programs work. I tell you what I do, Jimmy. Let me stop by. I'll come by tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go over the programs. I'll show you how they work, answer all your questions, and get out of your hair. Fair enough? Oh, okay, great. So you can, even the people that say they're not interested, you can still get in to book those appointments. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, you can still door knock any of these leads. Even if you get turned down over the phone, you can still go back and door knock it. And if they remember you, if they know who you are, say, "Mrs. Smith, I know we talked on the phone, but I honestly got the feeling that you thought I was a telemarketer trying to sell you something over the phone, and I'm not. I'm just required to provide you the information in which you requested." And I'll also even say, well, like what Michael said. Now, Mrs. Jones, what you do with that information is up to you. But if you would allow me 5-10 minutes, just allow me to do my job and at least get you the information which you requested. I'll answer your questions and get out of your hair. And very, very rarely, if you're polite, if you're sincere and you're polite, very rarely will you ever get anyone that's really rude to you. And if you do get somebody that is kind of on the rough side or the rude side, it's okay to apologize. Say, "Jimmy, I apologize. I get the feeling maybe I caught you at a bad time," you know? And then what I'll do is I'll apologize and say, "Sounds like I really caught you at an inconvenient time. Jimmy, I'll make this real quick. My job is just to deliver the information which you requested. I can swing by tomorrow 9:30, or do you need something a little bit later?" And a lot of times, if you just phrase it like that, like, "I get the feeling that I caught you at a bad time," they'll say, "Well, yeah, I'm just having a bad day. Yeah, 9 o'clock's fine." So, guys, anything else you can think of?
Joe, I think that's so exciting or so important what you just said. And we don't want to burn through our leads just because we catch people at the wrong times. It's so
Right.
important that we put ourselves in our lead shoes. You call me at 6 o'clock in the morning, I may not be in a good mood. You call me at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, you're going to get a totally different Mike Mahalik. And the same thing with our leads as well. They're humans just like us. And so
Yeah.
what Joe just did was so important. He's agreeing with them. He's being empathetic. He's putting himself in their shoes. And in our tough and rough world that we live in, finding an empathetic person, someone who understands, really sets you apart from the pack. And it's really going to keep you from burning through your leads. It really gives you another shot at that lead another time when they are in a better mood. So Joe, that was really powerful what you just said, and hopefully everybody picked up on that. You disagree with them. Let them off the hook is a good way to say. They've had a bad day. They go off. We have spouses. All our spouses are in a bad mood. But since we love them, we care for them, we got to let them off the hook every once in a while. And that's what Joe just did with that client who maybe was having a bad day, maybe was fighting with her children, or just woke up on the wrong side of bed that morning. We all do it. Back to you, Joe.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to end the call with this, and it's we'll go around the horn. We're going to wrap it up with what's your why. And I want you guys, everybody on the call, I want you to personally think about this. It's like, what is your why? Meaning, what is your true purpose for being in this business, and what is it that you want to get accomplished? Michael or Jimmy, who wants to go first? I know I'm catching you off guard here, so I don't, haven't had time to prepare for this, but I'd like to hear both of your whys.
Joe, really something that Zig Ziglar said a long time ago, and hopefully we may have some youngins on the phone who may not know who Zig Ziglar are, but people, me and Jimmy and Joe's age, know that he was one of the best salesmen ever, and he had a phrase that has sort of really impacted my life. And it's really this: you can almost have anything you want in this world as long as you help other people get what they want. And Joe, I think both you, me, and Jimmy, and a lot of people still have the same heart. We love helping people that help people. And that's what these phone calls are about, Mr. and Mrs. Agent. We want to help you help people. And by doing that, we all know how this world works. What comes around goes around, and you reap what you sow. So my biggest why is to help as many people that help other people as possible. And that's what these calls are about. And that's what the entire Senior Solutions training platform is to help you better help other people. And that's my why.
Awesome. Jimmy, how about you?
The first why is immediate for me, and that is I want to be able to do things for my family, my wife, and my children that I otherwise would not be able to do. And a lot of that has to do with travel and time. I used to make a lot of money in the corporate world, but I never had time to spend with my family. And this gives me the freedom to, earn that money, but to spend the time with my family and travel and stuff like that. And more than travel, just spend time with my family. I remember before I never was able to attend a barbecue on a Saturday because I was always working on Saturday. Now, if a family event comes up and, if I want to, I can be off on a Saturday. It's not a big deal. I usually work every Saturday till about 12 or 1, and then I just take the rest of the day off. So that's my biggest why is the time that it gives me with my family. And then obviously the money that allows us to travel and do the things that we want. The second why for me is I just love to help people, kind of like what Michael said. Nothing, I guess I get better satisfaction than showing somebody how to improve their lifestyle. So when I say helping other people, I'm talking about helping agents. I love to help agents and show them how to do it better, how to help them make a living. I get calls all the time from people that are not even part of my group, but they heard about me on YouTube, or maybe they, are in Joe's downline and they contacted me, but I always take the time to help them out. I love to help people. And then here's a more recent why, Joe. I have a new goal, and it's very selfish, but I'm going to do it anyway. There's a really nice Rolex that I saw, and I don't want to buy a used one. I want to buy a brand new. And so that's my new why right now.
I like it.
Hey, don't be afraid of buying a used one. It's a Rolex, dude. They hold their value.
I know you do, but there's this shiny one that's got no scratches on it that I'm in love with.
Hey, Jimmy, can I give you some advice?
Yes, sir.
Go buy it.
I will. Thank you,
Go
Joe.
buy it now. Finance it. You'll figure out a way to pay for it.
Yep.
That's what Brian McCann does. He just goes out and buys it, man. As far as my why guys go, I mean, when I first got started in this business, and my why has definitely changed over the years, but initially, to be honest, it was just make money. I mean, I was, money hungry and money driven. And listen, at the end of the day, I know money isn't everything, but money pays for everything. And it's very hard to help other people without money. If you want to help your church out, if you want to help your favorite charities out, man, it's great if you can volunteer, but they really need money. A lot of these charities, they have plenty of people that volunteer. They just need more money. So I was just very, very money motivated. But after the years, and your why is going to change, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be, your why from 20 years ago is not necessarily going to be your same why today or what it will be, 10 years from now. But definitely helping as I moved into this business, and I really realized is that insurance is the space that I want to be in. Then it was about helping other people, not only clients, but about helping agents and helping agents get to where I've been and help as many people make six figures. It was always my goal to have 100 people in the agency making at least $100,000 a year. We haven't hit it yet. In fact, we're not even close to it. But that's my goal. I mean, is to have, you say that's my why or my goal is helping other people, but I really feel like I will accomplish something if I can help 100 people hit $100,000 a year. And the way to do that is to share the opportunity as many times as possible. Now, one of my biggest whys is having freedom and flexibility. I love the freedom. I love the flexibility of being able to work, when I want, how I want. Trust me, I work my tail off. I'm not doing 100 hours a week like the 1890 factory workers, but man, I am working, working, working. But the beauty of it is that it's your business, it's my business, and I'm doing it on my time. I know I'm building my future, not somebody else's. And that allows me to take time off and have the freedom and flexibility to do what I want. And finally, one of my biggest whys is just simply impacting others, whether that be through helping out clients, helping out agents, and also being able to help out some of my favorite charities as well. So with that, I think we went a few minutes over. So guys, be sure, have a great weekend. Be sure to join us next week. I got a really great call lined up for you guys. You don't want to miss it. Okay? So with that, thank you everybody for being on the call. Michael, Jimmy, you guys, you're the best. I appreciate you guys participating. Michael, I appreciate you participating. Jimmy, always.
No problem, sir.
Thanks for being my co-pilot and a good friend. All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
All right, man, take care. Thanks, guys.